Good evening, and welcome back to Dreamward Stories, where quiet stories lead you dreamward. Before we begin, make yourself as comfortable as you can. Let the lights be low. Let the room feel safe. Let your breath move slowly, in and out, without needing to change anything too much. The day has done enough now. You can let it rest. Tonight, you are listening to a peaceful story written for adults who want something atmospheric, gentle, and quietly absorbing, something interesting enough to follow, but soft enough to fall asleep to. As you settle in, you are invited to leave a small comment saying where you are listening from. A town, a country, a cozy room, a rainy window, whatever feels right tonight. If the story brings you calm, you can leave a like. And if you would like more long, soothing stories for sleep, you are welcome to subscribe. Now, take one more slow breath. Let the outside world fade. And let the story begin. Tonight, you are Merlin, his apprentice, tucked away in the hidden cottage deep within the ancient forests of Britain. Your lesson book should be waiting for you. But when you open it, every word has vanished. Before you can understand why, golden fireflies gather outside the window and begin writing instructions in the air. They do not speak loudly. They do not rush. They simply glow, forming a path through wet leaves, quiet rivers, old ash trees, and forgotten stone circles. Merlin has left you one task. Learn the one spell that cannot be forced. But this is not a spell of command or power. It is something softer, something older. And as the forest begins to teach, you will discover that some magic only arrives when your hand is open and your heart has made room. The first thing you notice is that your lesson book has gone blank. Not mostly blank, not politely waiting for fresh ink, blank in the way winter mist makes a hillside vanish. Every careful line you copied by candlelight the night before has disappeared from the page. The diagrams of root and star are gone. The 3 circles of moon water are gone. Even the small smudge in the corner, where you dropped a little blackberry ink and tried to pretend you had meant to, is gone. You sit at the wooden table in Merlin's hidden cottage with one hand resting beside the open book, listening to the forest breathe outside the window. The cottage stands where no road reaches it, deep in the green heart of ancient Britain. Its roof is thatched with reeds from the quiet river. Its walls lean a little under ivy and moss. Lavender hangs drying from the rafters. Bundles of thyme, mugwort, yarrow, and sweet woodruff sway gently whenever the door opens. There are shelves of clay jars, rolled maps, carved bones, river stones, candle stubs, copper bowls, feathers, and things Merlin insists are not clutter, but unfinished conversations. Morning rain has just ended. Drops still fall from the eaves in slow intervals. The forest beyond the small window glows with wet leaves. Oaks, hazels, and ash trees stand close together, their trunks dark from rain, their branches lifted into the pale early light. Somewhere beyond them, the river moves softly over stones, speaking in the patient voice it uses when no one is asking it to hurry. You are Merlin's apprentice. This means many things, though few of them are as grand as traveling bards imagine. It means grinding herbs before sunrise. It means cleaning soot from copper bowls. It means copying old symbols without letting your thoughts wander too far. It means fetching water from the river, knowing which stones are safe to step on when rain has made them slick. It means listening to Merlin explain that a spell spoken too quickly becomes only noise. It means learning that magic is often less like command and more like hospitality. Today's lesson was supposed to be written in the book. Merlin told you this yesterday while stirring nettle tea with a sprig of rosemary. "Mamaro," he said, "you will study the one spell that cannot be forced. He had said it casually, as if he were telling you the weather. You asked him what the spell was called. Merlin only smiled into his cup. "It has many names," he said. "Most of them are wrong by the time you say them." That was the sort of answer Merlin enjoyed giving, not because he wished to confuse you, though he sometimes succeeded at that, but because he believed confusion had a useful doorway in it, if one did not kick it closed too soon. Now the book lies open before you, empty as milk. You dip the quill into the ink. Perhaps you think, the lesson is hidden and must be touched by fresh writing. You write the first line you remember from yesterday's notes. A circle asks before it closes. The letters sit on the page for a breath, then they fade, slowly, kindly, completely. You lift the quill. The cottage becomes very quiet. A log settles in the hearth with a soft sigh. Merlin's old rake hat, Taliesin, opens one eye from a chair by the fire, considers the situation, and closes it again. Taliesin has never been impressed by vanishing words. Very little impresses him except cream and inconveniently placed sunbeams. You try again. The spell that cannot be forced. The ink vanishes before the last word is finished. Outside the window, something small glows between the leaves. At first you think it is a drop of rain catching sunlight. Then another glow appears beside it. Then another, one by one. Tiny golden lights rise from the wet grass and gather just beyond the cottage window. Fireflies. But fireflies do not usually appear in morning, and they do not usually arrange themselves into letters. You lean closer. The fireflies drift upward in a slow, careful pattern. Their bodies blink warm gold, each flash brief and bright against the green forest beyond. They form a line in the air, and another. The letters are not written in ink, but in pulses of living light. Ring the empty book. You look down at the open pages. They remain blank. The fireflies shift again, their tiny lights crossing and weaving, as if stirred by a gentle hand. Do not bring hurry. You read the words twice, not because they are hard to understand, but because they feel like the kind of instruction that changes if read too quickly. Taliesin stretches on the chair. His paws reach forward. His tail curls over his nose. From the shelf near the hearth comes a soft knock. A small clay cup has tipped itself over. Inside it is a folded leaf. You rise and take the leaf from the cup. It is oak, though no oak grows near the hearth, and a line has been written across it in Merlin's narrow, slanting hand. The forest will teach today. I have gone to ask an old hill a new question. Do not chase the lesson. Let it notice you. You turn the leaf over. On the back, Merlin has added one more line. And feed the cat only if he looks tragic. Taliesin opens both eyes at once. You smile despite yourself. The fireflies outside the window scatter, then gather again near the cottage door, waiting. You close the blank book carefully and tie it with its leather cord. You place it in your satchel beside a small knife for cutting herbs, a beeswax candle, a pouch of salt, a coil of red thread, and a piece of bread wrapped in linen. You take your walking cloak from its peg. It smells faintly of rain, smoke, and crushed fern. Before leaving, you pour a little cream into a saucer for Taliesin. He rises with the slow dignity of a king accepting tribute. The cottage door opens onto a path of damp leaves and soft earth. The fireflies drift ahead to the green morning, shining though the sun has already climbed above the trees. You step outside. Behind you, Merlin's hidden cottage settles back among ivy, smoke, and quiet. Ahead of you, the forest begins to right. The path from the cottage is narrow enough that ferns brush both sides of your cloak as you walk. Rainwater beads along their curled green tips. When you pass, the drops fall onto the earth with small, dark sounds. The forest smells of wet bark, moss, mushrooms, and the faint sweetness of crushed violets hidden somewhere beneath the leaves. Above you, the canopy shifts in the soft breeze, and every branch seems to be whispering to another branch just out of hearing. The fireflies move slowly. They do not dart as ordinary insects do. They drift in clusters of 5 or 7, waiting whenever the path bends, then continuing once your boots find the way. Sometimes they vanish in shafts of morning light and reappear in the shade. Sometimes they hover close to your satchel, where the blank lesson book rests against your side. You have walked this forest many times with Merlin. You know the hollow beech where owls sleep. You know the patch of nettles that sting unless greeted in rhyme. You know the stone with a crack shaped like a sleeping hare. You know where the river path dips too sharply after rain. Still, the forest feels different today. Not unfamiliar, more awake. Perhaps, you think, this is what happens when it knows it is being asked to teach. A low branch leans across the path. As you duck beneath it, the fireflies gather just beyond your face and arrange themselves into another glowing sentence. The first lesson waits where water forgets itself. The words hold for 3 breaths, then loosen into sparks. You continue toward the river. The ground slopes gently downward. The trees open a little, and the sound of water grows clearer. It is not the wide river. It runs near the villages, carrying boats and gossip and ducks, who believe they own the world. This is the small forest river that slips past Merlin's cottage, cold and bright, fed by springs beneath old hills. It moves around stones, under roots, between reeds, sometimes through places where mist lingers even at noon. When you reach its bank, the fireflies spread over the water. Their reflections tremble in the current, doubling them, then breaking them apart. The river runs shallow here, clear enough to show brown stones, green weed, and silver minnows holding themselves steady in the flow. You take the book from your satchel and open it on a flat rock. Still blank. You wait. The river keeps moving. A wren hops among the reeds. Somewhere upstream, a branch drops a last handful of rain into the water. The fireflies hover over the current, but they write nothing. You look at the blank page, then at the river, then at the page again. Very well, you say softly, because Merlin has taught you that a polite voice is never wasted. I am here for the first lesson. The river does not answer. You wet the tip of your finger and draw a small circle on the page, the simplest sign of invitation. The watermark fades. You try a word of opening, Dathan. A small breeze moves through the reeds. Nothing else happens. You try another word, older and rounder, one Merlin made you practice until you could say it without tightening your jaw. Ivanel. The minnows flick once, unimpressed. The book remains blank. The fireflies drift lower, circling your hand. Their lights blink slowly, almost sleepily. You sit back on your heels. This is exactly the sort of lesson Merlin would arrange. One that begins by refusing to begin. He often says that impatience is a noisy cloak, and most subtle things will hide until it passes. You close your mouth. You rest your hands in your lap. The river keeps moving. At first you listen for something useful, which is another way of not listening at all. You listen for words hidden beneath water, for a chime, for a sign, for anything you might report later as success. The river gives you stones, reeds, small bubbles, and the soft slide of current around a fallen branch. After a while, the wish to catch an answer loosens. The sound of the water becomes less like a puzzle and more like company. It moves quickly over shallow stones, slows in the hollow beneath the bank, turns white around one dark rock, smooths again, and continues. It does not hold its shape. It does not lose itself by changing. It is still river, whether it runs, pools, whispers, or slips underground where no one sees. Fireflies gather over the open book. This time, they do not form letters in the air. They descend toward the page. One by one, they touch the blank paper with tiny feet of light. Wherever they step, a gold mark appears, delicate as pollen. The marks curve, pause, and join. A line of writing blooms across the page. Water does not open to a fist. You read it without touching the ink. The letters remain. Below them, a second line appears more slowly. Ask by making room. The river glints. You look at your own hands and notice they have unclenched without your deciding it. Your palms rest open on your knees. A smooth stone near the water edge shines faintly. It is small enough to fit in your hand, gray with a white line running through it. You lift it from the mud. It is cool and ordinary, except that the white line curves like the river bend before you. The fireflies circle the stone once and approve by not saying anything. You dry it on your cloak and place it in your satchel beside the book. The first lesson does not feel conquered. It feels received. When you stand, the river's voice seems a little clearer, though it says nothing more. You bow your head to it, because this morning has become the kind of morning in which even simple courtesies matter. The fireflies move upstream for a few moments, then turn away from the water and drift toward a darker part of the forest. Their lights form one word between the trees. Ash, you know the tree they mean. Everyone who lives within a day's walk of Merlin as woods knows the old ash. It grows near the hill path, with roots like sleeping serpents and branches that seem to hold up more sky than they should. Birds gather there before storms. Travelers leave bits of thread in its bark. Merlin once told you that the ash remembers every name spoken kindly beneath it. You tuck the book safely into your satchel. Then you follow the fireflies deeper into the forest, carrying the river's lesson like a cool stone against your side. The forest grows older as you walk toward the ash. Not older in years alone, though the trees here are thick with age. Older in manner. The path becomes less a path and more a suggestion made by moss. Roots rise through the earth like knuckles. Brambles arch overhead, stitched with drops of rain. Sunlight falls in broken pieces and rests on the ground without hurrying to become day. The fireflies move ahead in a loose stream. Their gold lights look small among the green shadows, yet they are easy to follow. They pause beside mushrooms that grow in rings, beside foxglove bent from the rain, beside a hollow log where something small has made a careful home. Each pause seems to say, "Notice this too," not because it is part of the lesson in any obvious way, but because attention is not meant to walk with blinders. You begin to understand why Merlin did not come. With him beside you, every strange thing would feel half explained before it had even finished happening. Without him, the forest has more room to speak in its own uneven manner. A raven calls from above. You look up. The bird sits on a branch of hazel, black feathers shining blue where sunlight touches them. It tilts its head at you, with the air of someone who knows a great deal and finds most of it obvious. "Good morning," you say. The raven clicks its beak. "Late morning," it replies. You stop walking. The fireflies stop too, gathering around the raven's branch like sparks around a coal. You speak, you say, only when necessary. The raven fluffs its feathers. Wait, because if Merlin has taught you anything, it is that speaking creatures usually continue if not interrupted by foolishness. After a moment, the raven says, "You are carrying river in your bag. A stone from the river, same thing, if carried properly." The raven lifts one foot and scratches behind its head. Do you belong to Merlin? You ask. I belong to my own wings. Merlin borrows my attention sometimes. That sounds exactly like a creature Merlin would know. The raven looks down at your satchel. Books still mostly empty? Yes. Good. Full books can be very rude. With that, the raven launches from the branch and flies ahead through the trees. The fireflies follow in a bright swirl. You continue after them, smiling a little. The old ash rises from a clearing at the base of a green hill. It is enormous. Its trunk would take several people with joined hands to encircle. The bark is pale gray, deeply ridged, and marked with old ribbons tied into cracks by travelers, healers, shepherds, children, and those who came alone with wishes to private forwards. Its roots spread across the clearing and vanish into the earth. Its branches lift high, then bend outward, creating a roof of leaves that turns the light beneath it cool and silver. At the base of the tree is a small spring. Water slips from between two roots into a stone basin, then spills away into ferns. The spring is quieter than the river, but its silence feels deliberate. The raven lands on a low branch. The fireflies gather around the ash trunk. This time, they write in a slow spiral, circling upward around the bark. Mend what was not broken. You read the words twice. The raven watches you. That seems unhelpful, you say. Many true things begin that way, says the raven. You set your satchel down and open the book. The first lesson remains on the page in gold. Water does not open to a fist. Ask by making room. Below it, the rest of the page waits. You look around the clearing. Nothing appears broken. The ash stands strong. The spring flows. The ribbons move gently in the breeze. Ferns lean at the edge of the basin. Snail travels with admirable seriousness along one route. The clearing seems whole in every direction. Then you notice a thread. A strip of blue cloth has come loose from the bark and lies tangled in wet grass. It may have been tied there long ago by someone asking the ash to remember a name. Now the knot has slipped, not torn, not ruined, simply undone by weather. You pick it up. It is faded, but still blue. One end is frayed. Mud clings to the middle. You could tie it back to the tree. That seems too easy. You hold it for a moment, then walk to the spring and rinse the mud away. Water is cold enough to wake your fingertips. You smooth the cloth over your palm. The frayed end cannot be made new, but it can be treated gently. From your satchel you take the coil of red thread. You do not know why you packed it. You often pack things because Merlin has taught you that usefulness enjoys arriving unexpectedly. You wrap the frayed end with a few careful turns, not hiding the wear, only keeping it from unraveling further. Then you return to the ash. You do not tie the blue strip tightly. You make a loose knot in the bark, where it had rested before, leaving room for the tree to grow, for rain to pass, for time to do what time does. The fireflies brighten. The raven gives a small approving croak. Oh, he makes it sound like an accident. A line appears in the lesson book. Not all mending repairs. A second line follows. Some mending remembers with kindness. You sit it beneath the ash, and let the words settle. The blue cloth moves softly in the breeze. Red thread bright at its edge. It does not look new. It looks cared for. There is a difference. The ash leaves shiver above you. From somewhere within them comes a sound like many small voices speaking at once, not in words, but in leaf language. Brush, lift, release, brush again. The spring adds its own quiet note. The raven tucks his head under one wing, while one eye remains open. You take the river stone from your satchel and place it on the root beside you. The white line within it catches light. For a brief moment, The pattern in the stone resembles the blue ribbonous curve, the springish path, and the first shape of the fireflies at the cottage window. Different things, making the same kind of gesture. The fireflies lift from the ash and gather in front of you. If only a new instruction. Carry nothing you cannot return. You consider your satchel, book, candle, salt, thread, bread, stone. The stone was given by the river, or at least noticed by it. The thread belongs to you. The bread can be eaten or shared. The candle can burn. The salt can dissolve. The book, perhaps, belongs to the lesson more than to you. You stand and bow your head to the ash. The raven opens both eyes. Where next? You ask. The fireflies drift o'er the hill path. The raven answers before they can write. Stone circle. Dusk likes to arrive there early. Then he spreads his wings and flies between the trees, leading the way into green shadow. The path to the stone circle climbs gently through hazel, bracken, and old grass still wet from the morning rain. By midday, the clouds have thinned. Sunlight comes and goes through leaves, turning the world briefly golden, then green again. The fireflies should have vanished by now, hidden by daylight, but they remain visible beneath the branches, small lanterns in the shadowed places. When the path crosses open ground, they dim almost to nothing, then reappear under trees. The raven keeps ahead of you for a time. He flies from branch to branch, never too far, never quite waiting. Now and then he says a word you suspect is meant to be helpful. Left, duck, bog. Each warning arrives just before it is needed. After the bog, where your boot sinks only a little because the raven sighs dramatically at the correct moment, the trees begin to thin. The hill rises before you, rounded and green, with stones showing through its side like old bones beneath a blanket. At the top stands the circle. You have been there once before with Merlin. That was in winter. Frost had silvered every blade of grass, and the stone stood beneath a hard blue sky. Merlin had told you the circle was not built to trap power, as some believed, but to give power a place to sit down. Even wonder needs a chair, he said. Today the circle waits under a softer sky. 12 stones stand upright on the hilltop, though one leans deeply and another has cracked from top to middle. Lichen covers their surfaces in pale green maps. Small flowers grow around their bases. In the center is a flat stone, wide enough for an open book, warmed by the afternoon sun. The fireflies drift into the circle and scatter among the stones. The raven lands on the leaning one. You step between 2 upright stones and pause, because some places deserve to be entered gently. The air inside the circle feels different, not heavy, not solemn in a cold way. It feels as though many seasons have passed through and left their quieter thoughts behind. Wind moves over the hill, carrying the smell of grass, distant rain, and river water warmed by sun. You set your satchel on the central stone and open the lesson book. 2 lessons shine on the first page. Water does not open to a fist. Ask by making room. Not all mending repairs. Some mending remembers with kindness. The rest remains blank. The fireflies gather above the central stone, then arrange themselves into a ring. They do not form letters. They make a circle of light, pulsing slowly. You wait. Nothing happens. A raven preens one wing. You remember the morning by the river. You remember the ash tree. You try not to turn waiting into a clever disguise for impatience. The firefly circle keeps pulsing. The blank page remains blank. A shadow moves across the hill. You look up and see a woman walking toward the circle from the far side, carrying a basket hooked over one arm. She is old, though not frail, with a straight back and a green shawl pinned at one shoulder. Her hair is the color of sheep's wool. The basket smells faintly of beeswax, apples, and dried mint. She enters the circle without hesitation and nods to you, as if she expected to find you there. "Merlin's apprentice," she says. "Yes, I am Elowin. You know the name." Merlin has mentioned her before, though never clearly. Sometimes he calls her the keeper of bees, sometimes the woman who convinced a thunderstorm to wait until after supper, sometimes, with rare seriousness, an old friend who learned early not to argue with rivers. Elowin places her basket on the grass. "He sent me," she says. You glance toward the raven. The raven looks offended. "Not sent?" Elowin corrects, noticing. Asked in a way that allowed refusal. The raven settles. Elowin removes a small beeswax candle from her basket and places it beside your book. It is plain, honey-colored, and smells of summer fields. "For later," she says. "I have one already." "No," she replies. "You have a candle. This is a waiting flame. You are not certain what that means, but you have learned not to dismiss names." Elowin looks at the fireflies circling above the stone. "They are patient teachers," she says, "unless you treat them like ink. The book went blank. It would have had to. Why? Because you were ready to copy the spell." Elowin says, "And this is not the kind that survives being copied too soon." She sits on the grass just inside the circle, smoothing her shawl over her knees. The raven hops down from the leaning stone and walks nearer, pretending he has no interest in the basket. "Merlin said, 'It cannot be forced,' you say. Merlin says many things. This one happens to be useful." She takes an apple from the basket, cuts it with a small knife, and offers you a slice. You accept. The apple is crisp and sweet, with the faint tartness of autumn. The autumn has not yet come. "What is the spell?" you ask. Elowin chews thoughtfully. If I answer too quickly, you will think the name is the lesson. You wait. She smiles. "Good." The fireflies drift closer, their lights reflected in her eyes. "There is a spell older than most words used for magic," Elowin says. "It does not bind, command, summon, change, banish, seal, or open by force. It invites what is willing. It lets a hidden thing come near without being dragged. It lets a tired thing rest without being held down. It lets a lost thing find the path home without being chased." The circle of stones seems to listen. "Merlin calls it the unforced spell," she continues. "I call it welcome. The word is simple enough to fit in a cottage doorway. It is also large enough to fill the circle. Welcome." You look at the blank page. "That is all?" Elowin laughs softly, not unkindly. "The smallest doors often lead to the oldest rooms. The fireflies form letters above the book. No cup fills while clenched. The words shine bright, then scatter." Elowin stands and brushes grass from her skirt. "At moonrise, go down the western slope," she says. "Follow the fireflies to the quiet river's bend. Take the waiting flame. Take the book. Take the stone, but remember it is not yours forever." She lifts her basket. "What will I find there?" "The part of the lesson that will not come while you are looking directly at it." This, too, sounds like Merlin. Elowin leaves the circle by the far gap between stones. Before she descends the hill, she turns back. "One more thing. When the spell asks for your hand, give your open palm, not your grasp." Then she is gone down the slope, green shawl moving among the grass until the hill folds her sight. The raven manages to steal no apple. This seems to disappoint him deeply. The sun lowers. Inside the stone circle, the fireflies begin to brighten. Dusk arrives early on the western side of the hill. By the time you leave the stone circle, the sky has turned the soft blue of cooling ash. The sun still touches the far fields beyond the forest. But beneath the trees, the evening has already begun. Long shadows rest across the grass. The air smells of damp leaves, honey from Eloina's candle, and the faint mineral scent of stones giving back the day's warmth. The raven does not follow. He remains on the leaning stone, black against the pale sky. Will you come? You ask. No. Why not? Too many fireflies. They make everything look important. Then he tucks his beak under his wing, ending the conversation. You descend the western slope alone, except for the lights. The fireflies move differently now. In daylight they were guides. At dusk they become something closer to stars. They gather in streams along the path, illuminating roots and stones just before you reach them. They hover over low branches. They drift around patches of nettle. Their light is warm gold, but where it touches the shadows turn green. The western path leads into a part of the forest you know only from stories. Merlin calls it the listening wood. He says it is not dangerous, only particular. People who enter loudly often find themselves walking in circles until they grow bored and leave. People who enter softly may find what they did not know they were seeking. The trees here are tall and slender, mostly beech, with smooth gray trunks like pillars in a roofless hall. Leaves whisper far above. The ground is covered in last year's copper leaves, softened by rain. Every step you take is quiet. You carry Allowance candle wrapped in cloth. Your own candle remains in your satchel, but you understand now that this one matters. A waiting flame, she called it. The phrase stays with you. The fireflies lead you to the river's bend just as the first star appears. Here the small forest river widens into a still pool before turning south. Reeds grow thick along one side. On the other, a flat bank of moss slopes gently to the water. An alder tree leans over the pool, its leaves trembling in their own reflection. The surface is dark and clear, holding the evening sky. You kneel on the moss and set the book before you. The 2 lessons remain. The rest of the page waits. You set the river stone beside the book. The white line within it seems brighter in the fading light. Then you unwrap Allowance candle and place it upright in a small hollow of moss. You reach for a flint. Before you can strike it, the fireflies gather around the wick. One lands on it. Then another. Their light sinks into the beeswax. The candle flame appears without a spark. It is very small. It does not flicker like an ordinary flame. It burns steady and low, gold at the center and silver at the edge, as if moonlight has learned to be warm. The pool reflects it perfectly. The fireflies arrange themselves above the water. At first they form the word, welcome, and the levers loosen and become a doorway shape. You wait. The pool remains still. You place your hand over the book and speak gently. Welcome. The flame brightens. The pool remains still. You try again, shaping the word with more care. Welcome. A frog chirps once from the reeds. The spell does not come. You sit back. This is the first time frustration approaches you clearly, not sharply, not like anger, more like a tired traveler arriving at the edge of your thoughts. You have followed the fireflies. You have listened to river and ash. You have carried the stone. You have waited through morning, noon, and dusk. You know the word now. It is simple. Welcome. You have said it. Still, nothing has opened. The candle burns. The fireflies drift. The pool keeps its dark mirror. You look at your hands. Without noticing, you have curled them against your knees. No cup fills while clenched. You open your fingers. The night deepens. Crickets begin their small, steady music. Somewhere in the listening wood, a branch creaks. The river enters the pool with the faintest ripple and leaves it again on the far side, never still for long, even where it appears quiet. Perhaps welcome is not a word said towards something. Perhaps it is a space made within reach. You breathe out slowly and stop trying to make the spell happen. You move the book aside. You place the river stone on your open palm and extend your hand toward the pool, not offering it yet, not withholding it either. The stone rests cool and gray against your skin. Its white line curves toward your wrist. A candle flame leans toward the water. The fireflies lower themselves until they hover just above the surface. The pool changes, not dramatically. The water does not rise. No shining figure appears. No ancient door opens beneath the alder roots. Instead, the reflection of the first star becomes clearer, then the reflection of the second, then the candle flame, then the fireflies, then your open hand. In the reflection, the stone in your palm is not gray. It is full of moving water. A line appears across its surface, written not in letters, but in brightness. The river's voice from morning returns. The ash leaves join it, and Elowen's word rests between them. A blank page of your book turns by itself. A new line writes across it in gold. Welcome is not the door. Another line appears. It is the hand that does not close when the door opens. You read the words once. The stone grows warmer. From the far side of the pool, where alder roots tip into water, a small glow emerges. It is not a firefly. It is a seed. A single seed of light, no larger than a hazelnut, floats across the surface without disturbing it. It moves toward your open hand. Everything in you knows that you could close your fingers around it easily. You do not. The seed touches the stone. For one quiet moment, river stone, candle flame, fireflies, and water reflection become one small circle of light on your palm. Then the seed lifts into the air. It joins the fireflies above the pool. Together they write. Now return what helped you arrive. You look at the river stone. The thought of keeping it had already settled somewhere inside you. Not greedily, not with any great claim. It was a lesson stone, after all, a gift from the morning river. It would be easy to tuck it into your satchel and place it later on the shelf in Merlin's cottage among other meaningful things. But carry nothing you cannot return. You lower your hand to the pool. The stone slips from your palm. It enters the water with barely a sound. For a moment it is visible beneath the surface, gray with its white river line. Then the current takes it gently from the pool and carries it onward. The candle flame grows tall. The book writes one more line. A spell that cannot be forced can only be joined. The words remain. The fireflies scatter into the listening wood, and for the first time all day, they do not immediately show you where to go. You sit beside the pool with the waiting flame, the book open before you, and the river moving through darkness. The lesson has not ended, but it has become quieter. Night settles fully over the listening wood. The moon rises late, silvering the upper leaves first, then the mossy bank, then the slow curve of the river pool. Elowen's candle continues to burn with its small steady flame, though no wax seems to melt. The book lies open beside it, the gold writing faintly bright on the page. A spell that cannot be forced can only be joined. You read the line until it stops feeling like an answer and begins to feel like a place to rest. Fireflies are spread throughout the trees now. Some hover high among branches, looking almost like stars caught in leaves. Others drift over the moss or trace slow circles above the water. They are no longer giving instructions, or perhaps the instructions have become too quiet for words. You wrap your cloak more closely around your shoulders. The night is cool but gentle. The river keeps moving. The alder leans over its own reflection. The listening wood holds its breath, and the way forests do when moonlight enters them. After a while, The fireflies begin to gather again. They do not form words. They form a path. A slow, floating trail of lights leads away from the river, deeper into the beech trees, toward a part of the forest where the ground dips out of sight. You close the lesson book and carry it carefully. You take the waiting flame in one hand, shielding it though the air is still. The candleless small light joins the firefly's glow, and together they guide you onward. The path is not one you know. It winds between smooth gray trunks, crosses a stream so narrow you step over it without wetting your boots, and descends into a hollow filled with ferns taller than your knees. The air grows warmer there, unexpectedly, carrying the scent of earth after summer rain. Though it is not summer yet, at the hollowest center stands a door, not a door in the wall, only a door. It is made of old oak planks bound with iron, upright between two beech trees. Moss grows along its lower edge. A round handle of dark bronze rests at its center. Fireflies gather around it, but do not touch it. You stop before the door. There is no house behind it, no room, no visible hinges attached to anything except itself. The space around it is ordinary forest, ferns, roots, fallen leaves, moonlight. Yet the door stands with perfect certainty, as if the world has always needed a threshold there, and only now remembered to show it. The book warms beneath your arm. You open it. A new line appears. Do not open the door. Look at the door, then at the line. This is, in its way, the least satisfying instruction of the day. The fireflies pulse softly. Another line writes itself. Let the door know it may open. You close the book. You think of every door you have opened in Merlin's cottage. The cupboard that sticks in wet weather, the little blue door to the herb room, the heavy outside door that sighs when rain presses against it. You think of village gates, barn doors, shutters, boxes, books. So many things in the world are opened by hand. This one is not asking for your hand. You place Ilauna's candle on the ground before the threshold. Then you sit on the moss. The door stands. You wait. An owl calls far away. A beetle climbs over a root near your boot. The fireflies gather around the doorframe, lighting the grain of the oak, the iron bands. A handle worn smooth by hands that may never have existed. You do not touch it. You do not speak the word welcome. Not yet. The word would be too easy to use as a key, and this door has already said it does not want that. Instead, you make room. You move your satchel from the space before the door. You set the book open on the moss, pages facing upward. You rest your hands palms up on your knees. You let the night be as it is. Let the door remain closed without making its closedness into failure. The candle flame leans toward the threshold. The bronze handle turns. Slowly, quietly, the door opens inward. Beyond it is not a room. It is the same forest, and not the same. Moonlight lies thicker there, blue and silver. The trees beyond the threshold are larger, their leaves bright-edged with starlight. A narrow path leads through grass that glows faintly where dew rests on it. Somewhere beyond, water falls in soft threads. The air smells of elderflower, smoke from a distant hearth, and old parchment. A figure stands on the far side of the doorway. Merlin, or almost Merlin. He looks younger than he did at breakfast yesterday, though not young exactly. His beard is shorter, his hair dark with only a few silver lines, and his cloak is the same gray-blue color as storm clouds before rain. His eyes, however, are entirely familiar, bright, amused, and kind in the way that does not always announce itself. He does not step through. You do not stand too quickly. Master Merlin, you say. Apprentice. His voice is softer than the Merlin you know, as though it has traveled from a time when the forest was less crowded with names. Are you truly here? You ask. That depends on what you mean by truly. It also depends on what you mean by here. Both are slippery words at night. That is Merlin, certainly enough. The fireflies drift between you, filling the doorway with gold. Merlin looks down at the open lesson book on the moss. You have learned several useful almost things, he says. Almost things. Most proper lessons are made of them. He folds his hands into his sleeves. What is the spell, you ask? He smiles, but not teasingly this time. You still hope it is a thing you can hold. You look at your open palms. Less than before. Good. This is a beginning. The younger Merlin steps aside, revealing the moonlit path beyond the doorway. At the end of that path is the oldest classroom I know, he says. You may enter only while not trying to arrive. This sounds impossible. The older Merlin would have enjoyed saying it very much. How do I do that? You walk, he says, and allow walking to be enough. The doorway waits. You pick up the lesson book, take the candle, and rise slowly. When you step through, the air changes around you, soft as linen. The door remains open behind you. The fireflies come with you. The path beyond the door is quieter than the forest you left. Grass bends beneath your boots without sound. The trees rise tall on either side, their trunks pale in moonlight, their leaves shining faintly as if each one remembers a star. Fireflies drift around you in a loose golden cloud. Elowen's candle burns in your hand with its steady silver-edged flame, and the lesson book rests against your chest. Merlin walks beside you, though his feet barely disturb the grass. This younger version of him, or memory of him, or door-shaped lesson wearing his face, does not seem hurried. He pauses to look at a spider web strung between two stems, then at a cluster of mushrooms glowing dimly near a root. Each pause slows your steps until the path no longer feels like a route somewhere else. It becomes a place unfolding one small detail at a time. You said the spell cannot be forced. You say after a while, I did. Why teach it then? To keep you from wasting half your life trying to force it. The answer is practical enough to be comforting. The path bends toward the sound of water. Soon you reach a clearing cupped between three ancient stones. They are not arranged in a full circle like the hilltop stones. These stand close together, leaning inward as if listening to the earth. Between them is a pool fed by a thin waterfall slipping over mossy rock. Moonlight falls directly onto the water. Fireflies gather above it in a slow spiral. At the pool's edge is a stone table. On it rests a bowl. The bowl is made of dark clay, simple and unadorned. It is empty. Merlin gestures toward it. The oldest classroom, he says. You look around. The clearing is beautiful, but not grand. Moss, water, stones, fireflies, moonlight, bowl. It could almost be a place you might stumble upon by accident, though the air tells you otherwise. What am I to do? Merlin's eyebrows lift. You hear your own question and understand why he says nothing. The bowl waits. You set the candle on the stone table and place the lesson book beside it. Its pages turn without wind until the newest writing shows. A spell that cannot be forced, can only be joined. Below it, a fresh line appears. An empty bowl is not lacking. You watch the words form. It is ready. The fireflies gather closer. One lands on the rim of the bowl, then another. Soon a ring of tiny lights rests around the dark clay edge, each insect blinking gently. The bowl remains empty. Merlin stands at the edge of the clearing. You have learned from water, he says. You have learned from mending. You have returned what helped you arrive. You have allowed a door to open. Now the spell waits to see whether you will turn it into a task. You look at the bowl. It would be easy to fill it. There is water nearby. You could pour from the pool. You could gather moonlight with words Merlin has taught you. You could invite fireflies into it, though that seems impolite. You could place the book inside, or the candle, or your hands. Instead, you wait. The waterfall slips over moss. The pool ripples. The fireflies blink around the rim. The bowl remains empty. Time passes strangely in the clearing. It may be a few breaths. It may be an hour. The moon does not seem to move. Merlin says nothing. The forest beyond the stones holds its quiet. Slowly, you begin to notice that the bowl is not the only empty thing. There is space between firefly flashes, space between water sounds, space between your thoughts when you stop pressing them together, space in your open palms, space in the lesson book where words have not yet arrived. The spell is not hiding inside the bowl. It is the way the bowl waits without shame. You breathe in the scent of moss and water. Breathe out. Welcome, you say. This time, the word is not aimed at the bowl, or the pool, or the fireflies, or the lesson. It is not a key. It is not a command. It is simply allowed to be true. The bowl fills with light, not from above, not from the candle, not from the fireflies, though they shine more brightly. The light rises from the emptiness itself, soft gold at first, then silver, then a warm color like dawn seen through closed curtains. The clearing responds. The waterfall becomes quieter without stopping. The stones glow long hidden seams. The fireflies lift from the rim and form a wide circle in the air. The lesson book opens fully, pages turning and turning, each blank sheet catching light but receiving no ink. Merlin watches with a face you have never seen on him before. Stillness, not seriousness, not pride exactly, something gentler, recognition perhaps. The light in the bowl rises like mist. It drifts towards you. You do not reach for it. It touches your open palms, passes through them, warm as breath. It moves around the lesson book, the candle, the stone table, the moss, the roots, Merlin's sleeves, the fireflies, the pool. It does not change these things into something else. It makes them more themselves. The bowl remains full and empty at once. The book writes one final line. The spell is not what you make happen. The words glow, then settle into the page. Another line appears beneath it. It is what you allow to arrive kindly. You read the lines without trying to memorize them. The fireflies gather into one last shape above the bowl. Not words, a hand, open. Then the shape loosens, and the fireflies scatter across the clearing like gold dust returning to night. Merlin steps beside you. There, he says softly. That was the spell. That was one way it chose to visit. Can I do it again? Merlin's mouth curves. Ah, there is the apprentice. You lower your eyes to the bowl. The light has faded, or perhaps it has simply become indistinguishable from moonlight. I know what you mean. His voice is kind. And yes, perhaps, but not by grabbing after this moment. You may practice the conditions. Ape in hand. Room made. Kind attention. Patience without performance. But the spell itself remains free. The clearing seems to approve of this. The lesson book closes gently. The door back to the ordinary forest appears between two trees at the far side of the clearing. Through it, you can see the dim shapes of beech trunks and the faint green-black of the listening wood. Merlin walks with you to the threshold. Will you come back to the cottage? You ask. I already have, he says, in one direction or another. You look at him. He smiles. Do not worry. By the time you return, I will be old again, and making too much tea. The thought is oddly reassuring. At the doorway, he pauses. You did well, he says. The words are simple. They do not glow. They do not write themselves in the air. They do not turn into runes. They warm you anyway, who step back through the door. The listening wood receives you with damp leaves, night air, and the distant sound of the ordinary river. Behind you, the door closes without a sound. When you turn, it is gone. Only fireflies remain among the trees, blinking softly, as if nothing unusual has happened at all. The walk back to Merlin's cottage is slow, not because the path is difficult, though the forest is dark and the routes are many. Slow because the night has become full of small things worth not passing too quickly. The silver edges of beech leaves, the smell of wet earth cooling under moonlight, the hush of wings somewhere above, the way fireflies appear and vanish between trunks, never quite leading now, only accompanying. Luan's candle has gone out. Oh, you do not remember when. A thin thread of smoke irises from the wick, smelling faintly of honey. You wrap it carefully in its cloth and place it in your satchel beside the lesson book. The book feels heavier than before, though it holds only a few lines. Perhaps some pages weigh more, and they are not crowded. At the river's bend, you stop. The pool is dark again. The alder tree leans over its reflection. The place where you returned the river stone shows no sign of it. Water moves in, water moves on. Somewhere downstream, the stone is traveling in its own slow way, carrying nothing that belongs to you, and perhaps remembering your hand kindly. You bow your head to the river. No words are needed. The path continues through the trees, past the hill where the stone circle stands in moonlit silence. You do not climb back to it. From below, you can see the tops of the stones against the stars. One firefly drifts upward and disappears among them. The old ash waits further on. Its clearing is darker now, but not closed. The blue ribbon with the red thread moves gently in the night breeze. You pause at the edge of the clearing and see the raven asleep on a branch, head tucked under wing, feathers puffed against the cool air. One eye opens. Learned it, the raven asks. Almost. Est kind. His eye closes again. You leave him to his branch. By the time the hidden cottage peers between ivy and hazel, the moon has crossed high above the trees. Warm light glows in the window. Smoke rises from the chimney in a thin silver line. The sight of it rests in you more deeply than you expect. For tonight, is a low door, a crooked roof, and a cat who will pretend he was not waiting. You open the cottage door quietly. Inside, the hearth is burning. The room smells of wood smoke, old paper, and something sweet simmering in a pot. Taliesin sits on the table beside your usual chair, tail wrapped neatly around his paws. He looks at you with great disappointment, as if you have been gone for several years and failed to bring a fish. Merlin stands by the hearth wearing his familiar old blue-gray robe, his beard long again, his hair like a storm cloud that has misplaced its comb. He is pouring tea into 2 cups, and does not look surprised. You found the forest in a teaching mood, he says. You hang your cloak on its peg. It found me in a learning mood eventually. Much rarer. You place the lesson book on the table. Taliesin sniffs it, then steps away, apparently satisfied that it is not edible. Merlin sits across from you and slides a cup of tea into your hands. It is warm with chamomile, apple peel, and a little honey. The heat seeps into your fingers. Only then do you realize how cool the night had made them. You open the book. The golden lines remain. Water does not open to a fist. Asp by making room. Not all mending repairs. Some mending remembers with kindness. Welcome is not the door. It is the hand that does not close when the door opens. A spell that cannot be forced can only be joined. An empty bowl is not lacking. It is ready. The spell is not what you make happen. It is what you allow to arrive kindly. Merlin reads over the page in silence. Then he nods. A good beginning. Only a beginning. The best lessons are. Anything else would be rude. You drink your tea. The cottage holds the quiet around you. Herbs sway from the rafters. A candle burns low near the window. Outside, The fireflies gather one last time in the garden, glowing among the foxgloves and wet leaves. Why did the book go blank, you ask? Merlin leans back in his chair. Because it loved you. You wait. He smiles into his tea. A book that gives answers too soon can become a wall. A blank page can become a doorway. This one knew which you needed. You look at the page again. The lines are beautiful, but there is still so much empty space around them. For the first time, the emptiness does not look like failure. It looks ready. Merlin reaches into one wide sleeve and removes an oak leaf. It is the same leaf, or one very like it, that you found in the clay cup that morning. Did you chase the lesson? He asks. Not successfully. Excellent. Chasing is often the least useful way to arrive. Taliesin steps onto your lap without invitation and arranges himself as though he has always been there. His warmth settles through your robe. He begins to purr, low and steady, a sound not unlike distant water over stones. Merlin looks toward the window. Beyond the glass, the fireflies rise. They form no words now. They drift among the garden herbs, above the rain barrel, around the old stone path, and into the lower branches of the hazel tree. Their light softens the dark without trying to remove it. The spell is not what you make happen. It is what you allow to arrive kindly. You close the lesson book. The cover rests beneath your palm, warm from the fire and the day a strange journey. Tomorrow there will be herbs to grind, bowls to clean, symbols to practice, and Merlin-esque remarks to misunderstand before understanding them later. There will be ordinary tasks. Perhaps that is part of the spell, too. Merlin pours more tea. The fire settles. Outside, forest returns to its deep night breathing. The river moves somewhere beyond the trees, carrying the stone, the moon, and all the quiet things that do not need to be held in order to be kept. Your eyes grow heavy beside the hearth. Merlin speaks softly, perhaps to you, perhaps to the cat, perhaps to the cottage itself. Some magic comes when called. Some comes when studied. Some comes when the hand opens and the world is no longer treated as a locked door. Taliesin purrs louder, as if he has understood this all along. You sit in the warmth, listening to fire, teeth, cat, and distant river. Outside the window, the last fireflies write one final message in the garden air, not in letters, in small, fading points of gold. They rise together, scatter among the leaves, and become part of the night. You do not need to read them. The cottage is warm. The book is closed. The forest has finished speaking for now. And somewhere beyond the hidden doorways of the world, the unforced spell rests gently, free to return whenever there is room.